Okay, thank you. All right, good morning, everyone. We'll call to order the June meeting of the Binghamton Traffic Board. It is June 13th, 2024. The first item of business is approval of the minutes from the March 2024 and the May 2024 Traffic Board meetings. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay, great. So we will move on now to the public comment portion of the agenda. If anyone is here to address the board who does not have, did not submit a traffic board application essentially and has an item on the agenda, now's your time to come up now. You'll have 5 minutes. Welcome to begin. Yes, yep. If you could just press the button on the microphone, the light should be green so we can hear you. And just
Green light means go.
try again, or maybe move the mic closer to you. They're a little
Hello? There we
perfect.
go.
Just your name and
I've
address,
never been
please.
accused of being low voiced. My name's Tom McNamara. I'm a lifelong resident of City of Binghamton. I currently live at 13 Woodland Ave, which is on the corner of Woodland and Mary Street. I'm here to address the attempt to change the lower half of Woodland Ave to one way. I've lived there for the last 25 years. There's been more accidents on the four corners of my property, which is Woodland and Mary, and all four properties. Another person that's here can address that as well. To change the bottom half due to having, from what I understand, it's because during the winter, various vehicles have gone through the guardrail at the bottom of the street with the house at the bottom of the street on South Washington Street. It's kind of strange to me that we'd be considering changing the direction of a portion of a street that's been there since the street's been there, based on one property and one season. All the other seasons, everything's fine on the street. Everybody goes up and down the street way too fast. There are no speed limit signs posted anywhere. I reached out to the council person addressing part of this matter in regard to the city work that's being done on Mary Street. But to change that would be a hardship for many of the people because their routes would have to be changed. My opinion is that they need to have posted speed limits and some kind of enforcement. I've yet to see a city police car ever come up that street. I do work on my property out at the yard, out by the road, and you can see people flying up and down the street well past 30 miles an hour. If it was decreased to 20, and possibly if there are extreme situations in the winter, closing off the lower portion. If there's a large storm that's supposed to be coming, because other people and everybody that lives up the hill, I've lived there 25 years. I've never had a problem going up the street or down the street in the winter. If it's bad and it hasn't been plowed or salted yet, everybody knows to take a side street and go to Morgan Road. The people that are running into this guardrail and into this house obviously are late for work or some other reason. But in my opinion, to change it and make that street would be a hardship for many of the people on the portion of the street. It would also create an issue right at my house because to change it, they're talking about changing the lower portion. So then it would be a one-way sign. People fly through the stop sign that's currently on Mary Street, which is why there's been accidents on my corner. So if you put that one way, how many people are going to screech their brakes at the people that are flying through, create more accidents, and ultimately end up going down the street anyway because they're flying down the street? I ask your consideration to not change it. increase salting, increase plowing, which has been sufficient since I've lived there for 25 years. And to want to change it for one house, one guardrail, or one season, to me seems not acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Just
Morning.
your name and address, please.
My name is James Zervos. I live at 74 Woodland Ave, where I've lived for 32 years. Lifelong resident of the city of Binghamton, recently retired as lieutenant in the Binghamton Fire Department, and I'm all about safety. I'm going to hit a lot on what Tom had said here. There's a bigger problem, and I know that's not what this meeting is for, is the intersection at Woodland and Mary Street, where I have personally responded to multiple accidents with rollovers, personal injury, property damage that far exceeds the repair or replacement of a guardrail. When I moved up there, the guardrail wasn't at the bottom. We had cars go into that house, where I've also responded. They put the guardrail in, and there's some knuckleheads that just go too fast. The big problem is I read the video or viewed the video at that you sent me at 18 minutes or something. The streets, whatever the assistant or interim public works supervisor or whatever he is said, they're not plowing the streets on time. They're not salting the streets on time. They're just not doing it. I call all the time. All the time. The neighbors call all the time. We get the same runaround. They're out, they're out, they're out. It's probably a money thing with overtime, especially on Sunday. They may have addressed this by now. I'd call all day long. When you have a storm the size of Texas that's imminent, it's going to hit us. Back in the day, Lou Kelly would go out, pre-treat the streets. As it snowed, he addressed the hills. Obviously, Sherwood is closed because it's too steep. The bottom of Woodland is a less grade, but they would start at the bottom, back up, so the trucks had something to grab onto. With Tommy Keller and all these other guys, they pound the hell out of those streets over there and make them clear. It's my understanding they do the main thoroughfares first, the hospital routes first, the main thoroughfares, so the police, the ambulances and the fire apparatus can get there. I've called multiple times. They see my number, they bitch, they complain like I'm doing. They just don't get out there early enough and address the situation on the hill. I've had school buses come down my hill sideways. I live at the top of Woodland Avenue, sideways, and I said, stop, point your wheels to the curb, stop. I'll call Public Works, and immediately they respond because people are out there with their cell phones. The problem is they're not getting out there and doing an efficient job early enough to address the snowstorms. The stop signs at Woodland Avenue, people blow through there. Like I said, I've been to rollovers, multiple car accidents there. Maybe you can look that up. Who's the guy that just retired, the sergeant? John, you know who that is? From the traffic board? Big dude. Yeah, I talked to him about it. And nothing has been done. Maybe, and I know this isn't for, well, it's Woodland Ave because it's Woodland and Mary where Tom lives. Maybe we can have a pre-stop sign, like stop ahead, or like they have in front of the schools, illuminate with stripping, chartreuse stripping or orange striping on the poles to let cars know. And some of the bushes are high, and that's, you know, the property owners or some trees. The stop sign might be behind some trees or something. But as far as turning that into one way, I've never had a problem, and until recently with getting up and down that hill. Four-wheel drive once in a while. I've been to accidents at the bottom of Mary where it intersects Morgan Road with cars into the creek, cars into the trees down there. Bottom line is spend a little more money, spend overtime if you have to, and that's what it's all about. It's about money. Overtime, address the issue, get it done. Here comes a storm the size of Texas. Let's take care of business on the hills, and throughout the city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Lucy Durlam. I'm a resident of 4 Pratt Court. I am against changing the traffic flow on Woodland for the following reasons. It seems like this is an overreaction to impose a travel restriction 365 days a year for a concern of a limited number of people on a limited number of winter days. Especially considering climate change and the winters are getting milder all the time. Woodland is the major thoroughfare for getting off the hill. It's a densely populated neighborhood or neighborhoods in that area. The homeowners, their families, their friends, along with delivery services of all kinds would be tremendously inconvenienced. I don't understand why you would want to penalize all of these people because of the actions of a few. There's a limited number of options existing for getting off the hill. So to further limit the options would make matters worse. Often during winter, DPW gives special attention to Woodland because it is a school bus route. And sometimes between the plowing and the salting, that road is in better condition than some of the side streets. And therefore, it would be even safer to travel on those streets than others. When you consider the high number of cars that travel up and down Woodland every day for so many decades of its existence, 5 accidents doesn't seem statistically significant and doesn't justify changing the traffic pattern. These 5 accidents beg the question, what factors were involved? Was it speed? Was it distraction? Is it inexperience? Poor judgment? Bad tires? And of course, I don't have the answers to those questions. This change will negatively impact garbage and recycling pickup, mail delivery, snow plowing, and salting, and package delivery, all which are typically done going downhill. This could also negatively affect emergency response by police, fire, and ambulance at times when speed is of the essence to getting residents to the hospital. Half the residents on Pratt Court are elderly and therefore at higher risk of needing emergency services, or some need life-sustaining deliveries, such as Meals on Wheels and dialysis supplies. This change would increase the dangers that presently exist. It's unsafe whenever you have a street that one portion of the street is 2 ways and one portion is 1 way. It increases the possibilities that the drivers will be going in the wrong direction. It changes people's, how they operate, their norm. It's very hard to change human behavior that's been entrenched for many, many decades with the 2-way travel to now only go 1 way. And I think it also increases the likelihood that some people will purposely go the wrong way on the street because it is shorter and more convenient for them, which is something we run into at the bottom of Mary Street on a regular basis, and you come head to head. I think there needs to be common sense and good judgment exercised here. My husband and I have lived on Pratt Court for 43 years. Our next door neighbor has lived there for 50. My husband's family moved to Woodland Avenue in the 50s. None of us have ever encountered accidents on Woodland because we exercise common sense and good judgment. And we take alternate routes off the hill on snowy, icy days. When coming down Woodland, you can opt to go Mary to James, or you can go Mary to Woodland to avoid that base of Woodland. And the fact that these 5 drivers did not do this, it does make me wonder. The people who are most likely to be concerned about accidents are the residents living on South Washington at the base of Woodland. These people bought their homes knowing the logistics and knowing the risk of buying a house in that location. They assumed these risks and when they made the decision to buy. Whereas the people who live up farther up the hill, they bought their houses when the street is two-way. They did not buy their house when the street was designated one-way. In conclusion, I think people need to use common sense and good judgment when driving, and these are things that the city cannot legislate or control by changing the traffic pattern on Woodland Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Diane Durlam. I live at 39.5 Morgan Road, but I grew up on 27 Woodland Ave. I have lived there all my life, 64 years. My question is, if there's a medical emergency down on the lower half, which is one way, how are the emergency services going to get to those people? That will affect these people that live on that lower half or the upper half 365 days a year. They will have to either go up Morgan Road, they will have to go up Morse, they'll have to go up Sherwood. It will add time that is valuable to the patient. If they add only 5 minutes to their travel, it may cost someone their life. We have a lot of elderly that live up there, and we have ambulances that go up there all the time. So that is my concern. What other emergency services would be impacted as well? I also would like to know what other options have been reviewed. Is there maybe clearing of the brush? Some other things that other people have brought their attention to is slowing down the speed limit there, limiting, just using common sense. Going down that hill on a snowy day is not wise. And you might have other options that would take you longer, but at least you would have those options. Some of the things that I did see were to clean up the corners. When you go down Woodland Avenue, to the right, there is so much brush there that it's difficult to see and you have to pull halfway out just to see on a good clear day during the summer. And if you come up Mary Street to go to Woodland Ave, to the left, there is hedges there that if were trimmed back, those would make a big difference as well. So being a lifelong resident there, I've never seen any accidents there because I stay home when it's winter weather and when it's not needed to go out. And use common sense and judgment, as I hope others would too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm
Good morning.
Richard Durlam. I live at 4 Pratt Court.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your name?
Richard Durlam,
Thank you.
Lucy's husband. I live at 4 Pratt Court.
Thank you.
I grew up there. I grew up on Woodland Avenue. Learned to drive on Woodland Avenue. My friends all learned to drive on Woodland Avenue. And we knew there was things that you had to deal with. such as snow and whatever, and you drove cautiously. My parents live on Woodland Avenue, and I watch the people come down that street. And they're doing at least 40 miles an hour. Driving has changed, and I'm sure everybody has recognized that. They either have to enforce it or, teach people to drive, and you're not going to teach people to drive. I was talking to my neighbor across the street. He's a mailman. One of the things he brings up is they deliver mail going down the street. Everyone on the lower half is going to have to change their mailbox to the other side of the street. It's not a big inconvenience, but that's two people on each side of the street. They're going to have to change their mailbox across the street. I had something else I was going to say. I didn't write it down like my wife, but I just wanted to be on the record. Oh, I know what it was. All right. We live in the city of hills. There's a lot of them. If you get up on one hill and you look, there's more housing and people that live on hills than there is down in the city. If they're going to change Woodland Avenue, I mean, they're going to have to look at every single hill in the city. And everybody at the bottom of that hill is now, you're going to set a precedence. Everybody at the bottom of that hill is now going to be able to change that hill to one way, that street to one way. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Green light. That means go. My name is Sue Boucher, and I own the land at 89 Upper Vine Street. It's at the corner of Sherwood Avenue and Upper Vine Street. It was considered a paper street for years and years and years. My husband's family owned it from the 40s on. 2 years ago, a young couple decided that they wanted to build at the end of the paper street, basically. And just recently, they came here to a meeting and wanted to make both sides of the street no parking. We have a small driveway. If we were going to have any visitors come to our house, they would either have to park up Upper Vine Street or down on Sherwood Avenue. In inclement weather, they would have difficulty getting up into our driveway. I feel that if anything needs to be, signs need to be put up, it should be dead end, so that people will not drive down that street, as opposed to the no parking.
My name is Gary Loyley. I live at 89 Upper Vine Street. I understand that our neighbor proposed that there be a no parking street, no parking zone in front of our house on both sides of the roadway. Our concern is if we do have visitors, they would not be able to park on the level surface. They would have to park on hills, either on the top of Sherwood or on Upper Vine Street. Obviously, we're both retired. We're in our 60s and 70s, and our friends are the same age, and now we're asking them to park and walk in the hazardous conditions. Some of the statements made was that because I had a vehicle parked on the road, the snow plows couldn't plow. That's a misstatement. It's very misleading. The snow plows don't plow because it was a paper street. When the plows come up Sherwood, they make a turn going southward on Upper Vine, leaving all the snow in the intersection in front of our house. When they come down Upper Vine, to turn down Sherwood, again, that pile of snow is left there. For many years, I've taken the snow blower and cleared a path from our driveway out to the intersection so we could get out. So that statement that they made was misleading. It also stated the garbage trucks can't get down the road. That's another misleading statement. I have numerous photos here showing that when the house was under construction, that numerous dump trucks with no issues were going up and down the road in and out of their property with no issues whatsoever. My vehicle parked there. The paper street is 24 feet wide. DOT regulations state that vehicles can only be 8 feet unless a special permit in width. That leaves 16 feet of space for a vehicle to travel up and down. And there's more than enough room for vehicles to go. They stated emergency vehicles can't get up and down the road because of a parked vehicle. Ambulances, fire trucks, or police cars. Again, that is misleading. If you can get dump trucks up and down the road, as my photos can show, numerous times, dump trucks been up and down the road with no issues whatsoever. So that kind of, it's a moot point. They complained that vehicles were blocking the road. Well, here's more construction vehicles in front of our house blocking the road, which had nothing to do with us. They complained about the fire hydrant at the edge of our property being blocked by our parked vehicles. Parked vehicles were all of their contractors. There's one showing a contractor parked in front of the hydrant. There's another one of the contractors parked in front of the fire hydrant. The fire hydrant is at the far end of our property. Our driveway is on this end of the property. He would not park down here, walk all the way up the road to come up our driveway to enter our property. That's just not logical. What were the dump trucks bringing in? Loads and loads and loads of fill. That property all sloped downhill. They regraded it and added so much fill, and now it's only about 15 to 20 feet higher than it was originally. All by dump trucks going in and out nonstop. And not once was a road blocked by us. So the need for a parking or no parking zone, I find is more of a hassle, more of a concern to us, especially a safety concern. To make that road a no parking zone, I think is uncalled for. And we're, as homeowners and property, as residents, we object to that request.
Thank you. And if you wouldn't mind, would you mind leaving the pictures? Do you mind leaving the photos for us so we can
Yeah.
include them in the record and then make sure the board members have a chance to take a closer look? Thank you very much for coming down. I appreciate it. Anyone else here today to speak at public comment? Good morning.
Morning, Jeremiah Brown, live at the corner of Crandall and Thorpe Street, 19 Crandall. I just wanted to give the board a quick update, because we saw a significant drop in motorcycle traffic, specifically like motorcycle speeding, with the detail from the police department, which was super helpful, but I think that stopped around Memorial Day. I haven't really seen cars out since. And it's starting to ratchet up again. Probably in the last week, we've seen a significant uptick in both car speeding and motorcycle speeding, people like at a high rate of speed stunting on everything from dirt bikes to motorcycles and stuff like that. So just my thought is that if if it's not in the cards to keep a continuous, like periodic traffic detail, then we need something else to sort of continuously mitigate that. Because it even, it obviously it gets significantly less during the cold months, but there's still a speeding problem even in the winter. And especially, when you have, some of them are students who aren't necessarily used to driving in upstate New York. So that gets even sketchier. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else here today for public comment? Morning.
Good morning. Amanda Giannoni, 198 South Washington. I know you guys are probably sick of hearing from me, so I appreciate just this moment to respond to a couple of things that my neighbors have said, and I really do appreciate their concerns and all of the issues that they brought up that rightfully they have. I just wanted to note that reported accidents are different than the accidents that are not reported that happen at our properties down below. Not everything had, a police call or a fire truck that had to come. The guardrail's been replaced 3 times since I've lived there in 2 years. My mailbox has been replaced 3 times since I've lived there in 2 years. Most recently in January, when the car came through the guardrail, through my fence and hit my house. While the fire truck was there and the first responders were there trying to help the situation, cars continued to come through, slide through the stop sign across both lanes of South Washington into my neighbor's yard and into our shared driveway while there was a presence there. I call all the time too, and same as the gentleman in the lovely mint shirt said, they tell me the same thing. It's really hard to preemptively salt. It's really hard to preemptively do things. We all know the weather here in Binghamton, so I get it. I know they're out, but it just doesn't happen like magic. And, even when they tried to close off the street when the woman was waiting to get pulled out of my house, it took time to do that, and cars continued to come down the road and continued to slide across the lanes of traffic. As to the speed issue, I agree completely. People fly up that street, down that street, Woodland, South Washington. People are going 45 by my house, if not faster. It's crazy. But when people come down the hill in weather, I'm watching them literally slide from my living room. They're braking, they're coming down sideways. They're not going fast. They're just sliding down. And the last thing I just want to say is it's a lot to ask of the public to use common sense. And for those of us that have it, thank goodness we do. But to ask everyone else to use it, I don't think that that's the solution. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment today? Okay, I want to thank everyone for coming down. And before we move on to the rest of the agenda, thank you specifically to everyone who spoke on the issue of Woodland Avenue. This has been on our agenda for a couple of months now. Hopefully most of you received letters from the city looking for feedback. Are you on Woodland? Okay. Did anyone else get letters? Okay. Okay. Yes. Yep. Yeah, it should have just been the one letter. I'll look into to your property specifically. we'll continue to keep this on the agenda. We won't be making a decision until ahead of the winter time, because most of the issues seem to be based on the season and on the snow falling. I want to make sure that we're being thoughtful in this and we're continuing to keep the door open for public comment. We did receive about 30 letters in response, letters or emails or calls. That feedback was about 50-50. So we're gonna, continue to consider this and keep the door open for public comment. I thank you all for coming down today. Also, just feel free to reach out. You don't have to wait for traffic board meetings either. If you want to discuss this further, you're welcome to reach out to the mayor's office, your council rep. Happy to talk between now and the next board meeting too. So thank you. Would you mind just leaving it with us? That'd be great. Thank you. Say it again, to this room. Yes. Yes, I'm sure the council president's familiar with that too. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so thank you again to everyone who spoke during public comment. We will now move into the next portion of the agenda, which are requested reviews. And the first item on the agenda is the Deco District Phase 2 project. And I believe we have a rep from Barton and Judas here to present.
Well, should I see about getting a person to help them get the elevator? I can run out and do that. Are you guys handling the stairs or he needs the elevator? Okay, let me go get a
I
security
think that
person.
Tito may have just gone to do
Oh.
that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
There's an elevator, but it requires a security guard to assist.
Thank you. Okay,
Hi, Megan.
hello. Thank you for coming today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm Jeff Nadge. For those who don't know, I'm a landscape architect with Barton and LaJudas, and we're working on the second phase of the Deco District streetscape improvements. In April, we prepared a initial traffic board memorandum, basically on the disposition of on-street parking and driveways within the district. It's something similar we did on phase 1. So this outlines how many spaces net loss we're looking at in the district. The phase 2 includes portions of Henry Street, from State down to Center. Lewis Street and Washington Street, and then portions of Water Street as well. This memo was prepared prior to the additional extension of the project limits going around the new parking garage. So we don't have any counts for Water Street. I think at this time, we're looking at just parallel spots opposite the new garage. But we can work with the city engineering office. Right now, we didn't have any existing conditions. It's a detoured route, and there's some parking situations that are temporary at the moment. So overall, there's a net difference of 16 spaces on street that'll be taken away. We've discussed all the on-street parking with majority of the stakeholders, including the GSA at the Federal Building, Lost Dog, Dan Sharp at Garage Taco and Crowbar, the shop, as well as the Forum on Washington Street. So I think that the position is that the new garage will mitigate any concerns with the on-street parking losses. GSA was good with having just 2 dedicated spots across the street on Henry. And then on the driveways, Most of them are being retained and they're just being formalized, whether they're gonna be 12 feet or 24 feet, they're close to the existing width. There was not much we could do with Sherwin-Williams driveway. I think that was 105 feet long. It's just one long curb ramp. We're kind of formalizing it to 72 feet. I think that's the largest one we have. There's a couple that are 30. Couple properties, we are eliminating a driveway because they have 2 access points. One's a vacant lot and the other is the Garage Tacos, which has 2 curb cuts, and we're gonna eliminate one on Washington. And then there was the city church parking lot, which has a looped driveway, which was fairly close to the intersection of East Washington. So we did some traffic studies, turning movements, and reviewed the city code where it states driveways should be 30 feet from an intersection. The current condition does not meet that. So we put a few options to the engineering department, and I think we settled on an option to actually remove the northernmost driveway. The property is currently for sale, and I think we're still discussing with them, but right now we are proceeding with removing that one driveway at the intersection. So I'm not sure if everybody's had a chance to review this or if there's any questions.
And this has already received COD approval, you said, Jeff?
Yep, the project has received COD approval. Dylan was gonna send a certificate of appropriateness. I don't have that, but Juliet did send some information. She said it's all approved through COD.
Okay. All right. Coming today. Any question, discussion, comments from board members?
Let me just say that the reason that part of Water Street towards the new garage was added is because we wanted to have the same theme there that we did for the rest of the Deco project. So for the garage project, we're just putting back asphalt for the sidewalks. And then with their project, they'll do the curbs and sidewalks and everything. And whatever else that matches the rest of the Deco district.
Thank you. Oh, we're excited about this. I can just say from the mayor's office.
Okay,
Very eager to see it move forward. I hope a chance to review and I think we would just be COD is already approved, so we would just be looking for a motion to approve the plans as outlined today by Jeff and in his traffic board application and the memo. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you very much, Jeff. I
All set.
appreciate it.
thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna take the liberty here if other board members don't mind, to move the Crandall and Thorpe Street item up on the agenda. So, Jeremiah, if he doesn't want to, doesn't have to stick around for the rest of our meeting. So a couple of items on that. Essentially, this is a request that we heard, if everyone recalls at the last, traffic board meeting, we had a couple of residents speak on, concerns about speeding on Thorpe Street, specifically motorcycles. We received a couple of traffic board applications to this effect. In response, the Binghamton Police Department did a traffic detail in the area starting around the time of Memorial Day, shortly after the traffic board meeting. Was it sooner than that, Chief?
It was sooner than that and it carried through the holiday weekend.
Okay, okay. A handful of tickets were issued as part of that. I think BPD had a pretty regular presence on the street. I'm glad to hear that it was, for the time being, seemed to have an effect and act as a deterrent for speeding in the area. I think the main request that was coming before the traffic board was the request for a 4-way stop sign. As we've talked about here before, there's a pretty strict standard for all-way stop signs set by the USDOT. I asked BMTS to look into that for us. They pulled the crash data at the intersection of Thorpe and Crandall where that stop sign was requested. There were 2 crashes from 2019 to 2023. That doesn't reach the threshold of making that intersection a 4-way stop. So the recommendation would then be to deny that request. That being said, I think that there are some other measures that the city can take to hopefully continue to deter speeding in that area. In addition to it just remaining on the police department's radar. There's some painting or striping that can happen there. So putting stop bars and ladder crosswalks on that intersection, that's something that we've seen in the past, kind of draws increased attention to the intersection, make sure that kind of highlights pedestrian safety and make sure drivers know that that's an area where they need to be stopping. In other areas where we've had this, we've looked into putting oversized stop signs if it was an issue of people running the stop sign. I'm not sure that that's the case here as much as it is speeding, but that's something that doesn't need traffic board approval. And I would just ask us to kind of continue dialogue on and see if that might be something that makes sense. And then lastly, in certain locations around the city where speed has been an issue, we've installed the speed radar signs essentially under the speed limit signs. So we have the mobile speed trailer, but we also have additional signage that goes up under speed limit signs, and that has seemed to help in certain areas. I would recommend this as an area. That's okay. That's something we can look at too. So that's something that we can easily look at, make sure all the signage that's supposed to be there is in fact there. Those are sort of my kind of thoughts on this after talking to some department heads and since the last board meeting. Do other board members have any thoughts, questions, comments?
I would say on behalf of the police department, enforcement is enforcement. The resources that are available to do that are not always available. And I can't promise that those requests are being made throughout the city by numerous persons with similar problems of speed or safety concerns in their neighborhood. I would be in favor of consideration for the mobile solar speed sign to be installed there. The availability of that is it's a city resource, but it's not controlled necessarily by the police department. They are also affixed generally with a permanent speed sign, so it notifies the public. I think those have an effect on general motoring public, people that choose to drive or drive those certain types of motorcycle vehicles in that manner are going to do as they choose. There's no doubt about it. But I think it's certainly a step that would alert your average driver. I don't disagree that there is a speed problem there. I've witnessed it firsthand throughout my career there. I was over there earlier this week and you can see it. Much of the traffic's to the bodega there and some of the residents that live there and have for years. So the problem isn't contested. The solutions are enforcement. Those resources are limited and our staffing and manpower is not as available as we'd like it to be. So, but I would support the city strongly considering relocating some of those signs from other areas, or if there's ability to obtain additional for those solar signs. I think that'd be the next logical step.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Sure.
It's not currently, there's no speed camera program. There is in other counties within the state. There's public observation, public safety cameras that is basically a video feed. It doesn't interface with any kind of a speed enforcement device or a stop sign or a red light camera per se. A lot of those programs are it's easier said than done. They're complex. There's technology, there's software contracts, and then who manages it and how it's prosecuted. But there is not currently any type of speed camera or camera enforced program within Broome County, other than the school bus program that's managed by the county, but those are affixed to school bus transport.
All right, so I think if no other comments, I would propose to deny the request for a stop sign in line with the MUTCD standards. But at the same time, advance some of the recommendations outlined today, specifically with the painting of the streets, the stop bars and the ladder crosswalks, and then identifying this as a location for one of the speed radar signs. We are in the process of, I don't know if we're applying or I think we've received grant funding for 3 additional speed radar signs. So I would put this, I would kind of add this to the mix. And kind of keep an eye on this and hopefully hear from neighbors there as things go and continue to hear feedback. So again, I guess what I'd be looking for a motion for is a denial of the stop sign request, but advancing some of the other traffic safety measures outlined today. Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
I
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, all right, so we can jump back now to near the top of the agenda, 83 Upper Vine Street. This was the request for no parking in this area. The original applicant was the owner of a home that was recently built at the end of Upper Vine. It had previously been a dead end. My understanding is the applicant is requesting no on-street parking in that area that had been the dead end and the paper street. Do we have I have some thoughts on this, but is there any preliminary discussion?
I don't see how parking affects her at all.
That the applicant,
Yes.
okay.
Sorry, could you define what a paper street is? I first heard that term today.
I can do that.
Someone could probably do it more efficiently than me.
Do you want to do it, Ron?
No,
or-
go ahead.
No.
Okay, so my interpretation of a paper street is on the map, it is a street, but it is not maintained. It has no blacktop. Nobody lives there. It's essentially dead end streets where building has started, stopped, and then no one has purchased property and it's just there. It was set up as a go through and just not finished. Would that be correct, Ron?
That's very good. It was there on paper. We could use it for storage or whatever of snow, which he always did. But now there's a house at the end, so we've got to turn it into a proper street.
I think the summary would be a street that was planned but never built out. But looking at street view, that section of Upper Vine Street does exist. So I don't know that it's a paper street.
Yeah,
There's
there
a
was-
couple different street views on
There
that.
was some curb down through there, so I don't know if it was really a paper street, but it was never used and nobody was at the end.
I don't know if there's like a 2012 version that you can see on Street View, and that's where you can kind of see where there was nothing built there previously.
There was some curb and stuff put out there. That subdivision was originally done. But nobody ever built past that one driveway that the gentleman was talking about.
So my initial, I guess my top of mind for me on this is whenever we get these types of no parking requests, the top of mind things we're considering are, is it impeding access to emergency vehicles? We now have this new home to consider at the end of Upper Vine. And is it interfering with things like snow plowing and garbage collection? I know that, I'm not even sure if they're moved in there yet for us are we, I'm not sure if they're moved in and that we're collecting trash over there.
They're still working in there.
Okay,
When they do start putting out trash, it'll be at the end and the garbage truck is gonna have to back in there. As of lately, what is happening is the residents that were here they have always just brought it out to the corner. So there was no reason to back the garbage truck in there because they have just brought it out that far. If they don't want to do that, my guys are more than happy to back up to it. If they're elderly or something like that, no problem at all. But since I can remember, the garbage bags have always been down towards that end. And if we need to change that, I'll make sure it gets changed for them. No problem.
I guess the question is though, and I have a request in recently placed into the fire chief to see that if vehicles parked on that portion of Upper Vine or in any way would affect like a fire truck being able to get in there to respond to the new home that was built at the end of the dead end. They'll go out and measure. They've done that before. They did that actually on Kane Avenue, where there's a cul-de-sac off of, and that kind of helped us make the no parking on one side decision there. So that's one piece of information I'm still waiting for, is just to hear back from the fire chief on that. But Josh, I guess you guys haven't yet had a snow season with that house occupied at the end where you'd be plowing that like cul-de-sac area now?
No, I believe they started building that at the end of last year and there wasn't much going on in the winter.
Okay.
So to your point as well, as far as the fire apparatus, I went up to that location after this was presented at the previous meeting. And I'm not sure, and it's probably an engineering issue, where the actual curb line would fall. It nature kind of blends in there. And then their construction project there appears to be a clear line where their property or their new driveway stands or would be improved to that point, but then would be parking on one side or the other side of the street. And then there is the hydrant issue there that's kind of up off of a slope, the lay of the land there, it's on the side of a hill. So I would think that there would need to be whether a new curb line is installed there or the specific measurements of the street before you could make an informed decision about whether parking should or shouldn't be there. And the hydrant certainly comes into play as far as city ordinance on distance parking from that hydrant. The other side of the street borders the neighbor's property, and it almost appears that it would be less feasible to have parking on the street that would be on the downhill side based on where the driveway would connect into what was the end of that paper street. So it wasn't clear to me when I was up there.
Okay. Ron, do you know if the city has any plans to continue the curb there?
There are there's partial curb on both sides out through there. On the lower side, I don't think it goes all the way out. But at this point, we don't.
Okay. My thinking on this again is I'd really like to hear the input from the fire chief. I'd like them to go out and measure and see if allowing on-street parking there affects emergency vehicle access in any way. And Josh, give it some further thought on snow plowing in the winter. That should be alternate side parking there technically. But I guess any kind of impact it would have on snow plowing and sanitation.
I think the other thing that they've asked for is sidewalk all the way out through there, but we're probably not gonna do it because there's no sidewalk to connect to.
Yeah, there is no sidewalk on most of that street.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So I would look to table this unless anyone has other thoughts, questions. All right, I'd look for a motion to table to the next meeting then.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We will revisit that and I will let everyone know what we find out from the fire department. All right, next item on the agenda, this is a requested review for a stop sign at the intersection of Vine Street and Coran Avenue from Councilwoman Matavetsky on behalf of a resident over there, I believe. Councilman, do you want to give sort of the overview on this, or at least how the request came in?
Yeah, basically I think it was an email asking for a four-way stop there because of speeding was the focus on it. And so I just passed it along here. We've had emails about it. Right now there's a speed trailer, the mobile speed trailers there. And I think you're probably just about to say that the crash data didn't come in and that it doesn't merit a four-way stop. But we have put in the mobile speed unit, so thank you all involved in that.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did ask BMTS to look at it, and much like the other intersection there, the crash data that was pulled, there were no crashes at this intersection in recent years. So it doesn't meet the warrants for an all-way stop. But as the councilwoman said, BPD brought the mobile speed trailer out there. The primary concern, as I understand it, was speeding in the area, so hopefully that helps. I don't know if there's any other discussion on this, but if not, I would look for a motion then to deny the request for an all-way stop at this intersection.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. Okay, the next on the agenda, 187 Clinton Street. This is the site plan that I had passed out prior to the meeting. The planned affordable housing development, and before traffic board today is a request for a handful of curb cuts. Tito, is there anything else on this that you wanted to highlight?
No, just that, like you mentioned, this is an affordable housing development, 2 buildings, over 280 units with some ground floor commercial and 3 parking lots. This was approved by the planning commission, the site plan, and they concluded seeker. So the last remaining piece is traffic board approval of the curb cuts. There are 5 of them. 1 on Jarvis, which is actually existing, 1 on Clinton, 1 on Hudson, and then the ancillary parking lot that's on Slauson Ave has 2, 1 onto Hudson and 1 onto Crandall Street.
Any questions or discussion from board members? Okay,
relative to the one on Jarvis Street, you said it's existing. Is that the one that feeds into what is now like the vacant lot, or is that for the structure further to the intersection?
That goes into the vacant lot, so that lower part behind the retaining wall. I was looking at that with Ron before the meeting. There is a concrete island there that kind of obstructs it, although getting in and out of there is possible. But that one was the only curb cut that was a little, I don't know, maybe needs a further look. The concrete island cannot be moved. That has a vault. Ron thinks it might be a pump station in there. But again, maybe it needs more review, but it looks like you can make turns in and out of there from both lanes on Jarvis Street.
I guess
Coming from the southbound lane would be trickier.
right. My concern is the traffic that's proceeding north as you come up under the underpass. The elevation from the grade below the underpass heading north into that intersection is a slight increase. Just if that's the main point of vehicle entrance and exit for the complex, just from a safety standpoint, I guess that's my concern in the visibility there.
Tito, is that feedback that we can pass along to the developer? Just to, to have their team kind of take a closer look at it and make sure they're fully understanding the grade of Jarvis and, the issue with that island not being able to be moved.
Yeah, we can ask them, and get their comments back to the board.
Is there a timeliness on this? Does it need to pass in order for them to start work at this board meeting, or can it?
No, the grant application that was a part of this, as far as I know, was submitted on time.
Okay,
So there's time for these decisions to be made.
and they're still a ways out from,
Yeah, and the
sorry.
planning commission approved it subject to the zoning board and traffic board approval, so it's not slowing down the planning commission in any way, so.
all right. If you wouldn't mind just kind of flagging that for the developer and at least getting their formal feedback
Yeah,
on the traffic board's input or the concern on that. And then As long as there's not a timeliness issue, we could table it to the next meeting if that works.
Okay, yep.
All right, so I'd look for a motion to table 187 Clinton Street to the next meeting.
Motion.
Oh, yeah,
Are there no other concerns with any of the other curb cuts? Is that
I had none.
accurate?
Did anyone else? Okay. Do you want us to split up approval? Does that help or not really? Okay. All right, so I'll look for a motion to table to July.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda, this is another one that I'll be looking to push to the July meeting. This is a request for no parking on the cul-de-sac of Duffy Court. This is where there are a handful of apartments on that cul-de-sac. I've reached out to the property manager there because I want to kind of loop them into the discussion on this, but primarily this is a concern from both, I believe, the traffic division and DPW on access for plowing and difficulties with garbage collection with cars parked on the streets. Everyone there has off-street parking. There's driveways in the back. I don't know if anyone has preliminary thoughts or comments on this, or if Josh or Sergeant Music, if you want to weigh in on anything I'm leaving out on the concerns on our end, but.
It's been a parking issue for plowing, garbage and recycling collection for a long time. There's all kinds of parking out back. It's just people don't want to walk from out back to out front.
Okay. All right. So like I said, I just want to make contact with the property manager over there and make sure we can hopefully connect with the residents affected by this, but I'll look to do that before the next meeting, and then we can table this to the July meeting if there's a motion.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda, Leroy Street. This doesn't require any board action. It's just more of an FYI and an update. Leroy Street speeding issues and some issues involving intersections on Leroy have been before a traffic board before. We've made a handful of changes in recent years to one intersection in particular. There has been a series of recent crashes lately. And essentially the city has asked BMTS to support us in doing a road safety assessment of the majority of Leroy Street. So that'll be moving forward starting this summer. Looped in the two council representatives for those districts. If anyone has, any interest in, and if you're hearing from residents who have expressed concerns about this before, please feel free to forward them to us. We can loop them in on this and make sure their input is heard as part of this safety assessment. But this will be broken up into two phases starting this summer. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts or questions on this, but we'll keep everyone looped forward as we go.
I wanted to thank you for looping in the council members.
Sure. Yep. We look forward to their input. I think at least Councilwoman Middleton has confirmed she's able to join us on the walking tour. So for the walking audit. And thank you to BMTS for supporting us in this. We look forward to the results on that. Okay. Next item on the agenda, 37 South Washington Street. This is one that's come up before the traffic board, if not formally, at least in discussions in recent years. There is an issue with southbound traffic on Washington Street near the intersection with 434, making essentially an illegal left turn into some of the commercial properties over there. Specifically, it's the parking lot next to the Common Soil building. So people traveling south on Washington are making left turns over the double yellow despite the signage that's there. And it's, it leads to a couple of different safety issues, but one of them is traffic backing up onto the parkway, in addition to visibility issues over there. We've kicked this around a bit on some measures that we can take to try to do more to dissuade people from taking what's already an illegal left turn there. We had talked about potentially adding, candlesticks. I don't know if that's the formal term, but candlesticks to the roadway there to physically prevent people from turning in. That would create a number of issues for our plow drivers were we to do that. In addition to, I'm not sure if there's the space there, the way there is on Main Street where we see them closer to the intersection with the Dunkin' Donuts on Main Street to prevent the left there. What we want to do at this point is add additional signage under the existing no left turn sign, adding an additional do not enter sign there. Hopefully just something else to catch the eye of motorists and underscore that that's an illegal left turn happening there. Talked about this with some departments, but I'm not sure if there's other feedback or questions or thoughts at this time.
This was something that was raised to me at Southside Second Sundays. People brought it up, so thank you.
Sure. Okay, I'd look for a motion then to approve additional signage, the do not enter sign below the existing no left turn sign in the area of 37 South Washington Street. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay. All right, moving on the agenda, Crandall and Thorpe Street, we've already covered. 127 Walnut Street, we considered this last time. This is a request for a new curb cut outside this location for a residential driveway. I'm just pulling up my notes on this because we had referred this to engineering for review and the traffic division. And it looks like the measurements looked like they might work, but there's an issue there with this being next to railroad property. I don't know if Ron or Tito, if you want to give a better overview than I can on this.
Yeah, so there is part of what looks like their yard, the northern part of their backyard. Some of that is actually railroad property. A very rough measurement on BCGIS shows that they have around 14 feet of that is theirs, which would be enough for the driveway. Code requires 9 feet wide. So there's room there. It's just that the property owner would have to be aware of their property line and make sure that they're not encroaching on railroad right away when they put a driveway in.
Have we in the past, or is it a good thing to consider? Is it a letter from the property owner? Or is there basically an additional measure we should be taking to ensure they're not encroaching on the driveway, or is it incumbent upon the private property owner?
Technically, it's their responsibility. We could, when we notify them of the decision, just put a note in there that, please note, there's railroad right of way north of your property, and some kind of disclaimer that they have to be careful with where they lay out their driveway, or they could submit a sketch of their proposed driveway before they can proceed, just to make sure that they're within their property.
I would prefer they submitted a sketch showing that property boundary between theirs and the railroads, so that we're not authorizing them to park on the railroad property.
Okay. Tito, I don't think I have the application for this one, or if you have it, would you mind just reaching out to the applicant
Yeah.
and asking that?
Yeah, they've been working with Solon, so I'll have him let them know.
Okay. So we'll wait to get that and we can put this on the next meeting agenda. Is there a motion to table?
Would the board be okay with conditional approval subject to the sketch, a compliance sketch being submitted?
I'm okay with that. If you are on,
We could run it by you before we give them the okay.
That would be fine.
okay.
Because they submitted their application quite some time ago, and they're giving Solon a hard time.
Okay. All right, so approved conditionally with the condition they have to submit the sketch that shows there's adequate spacing there. I'm fine with that. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay, the last two items on the agenda have been, sort of holds as we consider talking, and thinking on them. It's Woodland Avenue, as I've already touched on at the beginning of the meeting, and, Oak Street, which, BMTS has helped, assisted on some, traffic calming and pedestrian safety measures there, and that we're, continuing talks with the school district on. I'd like to take the summer opportunity to kind of nail this down with the school district and figure out which direction they'd like to move in, and how we could work together on it. So both of those items don't need, any action at this time. We'll just continue to keep them on the agenda. Any discussion or comments, questions from board members on agenda business or otherwise? Okay, if not, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.